How's it going, Mike?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to be here. We are in Indy. Yeah. It's fun to be here. We are with Mitch and Brian from Olson Custom Designs. Thanks for being on the show, you guys.
Back in the house, Paul.
Yeah, it's been a few years since I've been here. It is even more impressive than it was last time.
Thank you.
And that's kind of what we're here to talk about today. You know, you guys are building really a world-class company, right? There's no doubt about it. Anyone that sees the building from the outside, comes in the door, like it is absolutely top-notch. I know some of it comes from your racing background and just the instilling that, you know, clean environment, beautiful facility, you know, world-class operations. And what you've done, right? We met when you were about 5 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Today you're like 85 plus or 86 or 7. You're bringing on like one a week.
In a relatively short period of time, right? Like,
yeah, it was 2018 that we met.
Yeah. We had 5 people when we signed on with ProShop, and then with our 5,000 square foot facility, we had 12 people when we moved into this shop. So, and then
late of 2017.
Yeah. So from 2018 to now, we've scaled it from 12 to 86 or 7.
Yeah. Incredible.
That's incredible.
And there's no stopping. It's like you're continuing. So
we still got our foot on the gas.
Yeah. So we're in town for the TAS conference tomorrow. Chris on your team is going to join me for that, so that's going to be cool. Mike's also speaking. Nick is also speaking. So we got the whole
crew,
making chips crew. But yeah, thought it'd be great to just sit down and tell a little bit of the story because it's so inspiring what you guys have done, and hopefully, you know, our goal on Making Chips is to equip and inspire the metalworking nation, and so a little bit of inspiration and maybe a little bit of the how you guys have done it, or what we want to talk about today. So I want you to start about the very beginning of just the origins of forming OCD.
Yeah, I guess it kind of started a little bit with my end. With we were both racing sprint cars at the time. But this is back in 2013, maybe early 2014. My background is kind of more around fabrication and building race cars and sprint car chassis and vintage race cars from back in my days in Washington State. And so my previous job, you know, before we started this, there was a couple of Haas machines that somebody else ran, but I'd walked by them and stared through the windows and was always kind of amazed by what they could do. And so yeah, one day called up Mitch and just said, "Man, I'm just tired of the rat race, and you know, tired of you know working for somebody, and we need to start our own shop." Or start our own business, didn't really know what, right? But I kind of had the CNC machines in the back of my mind, and just happenstance, he was kind of going through he had his own business out in Washington doing some environmental service and cleanup, and he was ready to get out of Washington. He was going to go down check out Arizona that like the next week. And he's like,
okay.
"Well, I'll drive out to Indy."
Good timing.
And so we lined up a few things, people to talk to, and some spaces to look at, and within a week we had 2 Haas machines ordered and a space that we could rent to get started in, and
it was just the two of you. Just the 2 of you.
With no experience running a CNC at that point, right?
I'd never turned one on before we bought our own.
I love it. And then yeah, so relatively quickly you grew up to a dozen or so people. So what year was that? The very first opening?
2014 is when we got our first machines. So yeah, the first few years were definitely a struggle. I mean, sure. I know it seemed like we've grown real quick, but there was definitely those first few years where, you know, we were ready to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had very patient significant others at home. They put up with a lot during them years, so thankful for them. Thankful for our family's contribution as far as just the motivation, like to stick with it.
Yeah.
It's never easy. Anything worth having is never easy to have, and we're testament to that. It was definitely rough. You know, not even knowing how to operate a CNC machine and learning how to be business owners and accounting and all the other hats you have to wear in order to be successful in any business was all new to us. Sure. So we came from being fairly experienced and at the top of our game in our respective trades that we came from to being humbled real quick of this new adventure we were on. But just that it goes back to, you may not be the most talented in anything you do, but you just can't give up. So that's really the key to our success and a lot of other people's success. But a lot of mentors along the way, and there's always a little bit of luck involved, but we were able to make some right decisions and make some key hires at the right time, and we got some great partners with our customers that we've able to partner with, and we're just very fortunate. We feel really blessed to be in the position we're in, and it's been a super fun ride, especially these last 3 years, pulling out of COVID, and that hit at a really horrible time for us. But the last 3 to 4 years have been, it's really paid off for us.
Yeah.
Manufacturers, what is your biggest headache? Is it measuring improving profitability, gaining efficiencies with AI and automation, maybe tightening up your cybersecurity, maybe getting your business ready to sell? At CLA, their goal is to know you and help you with challenges like these and more. Every day, CLA helps manufacturers tap into millions in revenue and cost savings, like one manufacturer that boosted capacity and revenues by 15 to 20%. Visit CLAconnect.com to hear real success stories and learn how you can grow your top and bottom line.
And I don't know if we can say on record, but you have a new building that you're going to be more than doubling.
Yeah, a little more than double. It should be a fairly move-in ready facility for us. Hopefully we'll take possession sometime around the 1st of 2026.
Nice.
We're super excited about it. It'll definitely allow us to be better partners for our existing customers, and then be able to grow with any new customer and client that might come on. So It's always been our key to our growth, is being able to scale with our customers, and we're pretty close to capacity now. We still got some room if we need to make some room, but it's definitely getting a little cramped out there, and the offices as well. And you guys probably noticed the parking lot's a little full too.
It is.
But it's all good problems, and nothing we're not able to overcome and handle moving forward.
So, touring this afternoon, I mean, it's clear that you guys, everything you do, you just do the best you can possibly do it. I mean, this is as nice a shop as I've ever been in.
Thank you.
So go back to 2014 when you got your first 2 machines, and then that 5,000 square foot in here. Have you always taken that approach, or was that kind of with this move you really just said, okay, if we're going to do this, let's go all out?
We've always had champagne style on a beer budget, so to speak. But we've always tried to represent ourselves, whether it be our racing career or anything personally we've set out to do. Whether we've always just kind of had that flair for a good looking operation, no matter what we wanted to do. So mostly our racing careers have been that, what we kind of modeled that after before this. But our family's business is always like, if you're going to do something, do it right.
Sure.
Represent yourself with class and integrity, and that's really what it's more about, is just the integrity. So I feel it's a representation of who we are. We really do want to put our best foot forward in any situation. We want to create that belief system within our culture that the customer matters, the products we're building matters. We just had a team building event last week, and we brought one of our partners in, which is probably one of our larger customers, and spoke to our team about how the relationship looks from their point of view and our contribution to it. And it's in that case it's a medical customer, and it's a lot more than parts. It's every time you're pulling, every time you're unclamping the clamps off of your fixture, that's treating a patient.
Right.
And if you take that ideology and that mentality, it does make a difference on your day-to-day outlook on what you're doing. We're also helping the war fighter, and it's critical components for every single mechanism that we're building parts for. So, it's one of many, but typically what we do is a critical function of the device or tool, or what it may be. So pretty cool stuff to be a part of. We're very passionate about what our customers are doing, and we carry that passion onto our floor, and then I think that really helps with our culture.
Yeah, and I want to clarify. I mean, the shop and the building and everything is great, but I mean, you can see in the operations too that you're doing everything right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're putting all the right systems and processes and tools in place for your people. It appears to be able to just come in and provide those products.
That was one of the things, when we started was, we didn't inherit, bad systems from our grandpa's machine shop, you know what I mean? So, which those are great too, but, we were able to start with a fresh set of eyes and, research, what's the best cam system to get, what's the best, whatever to get. And, so I think that's been a bit of it was a disadvantage maybe to start, but a big advantage, I think, also moving forward.
It was a huge disadvantage and a huge obstacle to overcome when you're talking with potential clients and customers. It's like, well, you guys have never done this before. Why should I use you?
Yeah.
And, we just kind of worked through some of them objections, but there was a lot of times we did not win work because we were so new.
Yeah, I can, having started a shop straight out of college, I was 24 maybe, I can totally relate. Like, I'm this young guy, barely can grow a beard, and they're like, so why should we send you all of our critical parts?
Yeah.
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 You just got out of diapers. So,
But, going back to your first question, Paul, of, the journey, once we kind of overcame them first obstacles, learning the ABCs of, machining, so to speak, it's like, well, what is going to be our identity, and what direction are we going to go in? And a little bit of it's opportunity based, but I think overall, as far as the culture goes, it's like, with our background and our style, so to speak, and then with our family's influence on how they built businesses back in Washington State, it was kind of like we really felt like we could change the perception of what manufacturing could be. More than just building a business and making money and making a living. I think we had a bigger vision, whether it was said out loud or not. It was definitely, we wanted something that like represented a difference in the industry, because we could walk. One of our first endeavors to generate revenue was doing overflow work for other manufacturing facilities. So it did give us kind of a little insight on their businesses and their practices and stuff like that, and which was successful in their own right. It was just, we felt that we could be different, and how can we be different in a good way, and that would benefit us. Certainly not trying to tear anybody else's business down, but how can you be better than your competition?
Sure.
And that was definitely on our mind. Maybe from our racing culture, it was how do you outdo the next guy?
Yeah, you can always come in first. Yeah.
So I think we really wanted to set out and try and change the perception of what a manufacturing facility could look like. And we've always been around like the clean, neat, and tidy race shops, and I think our facility clearly represents or emulates a racing shop, but it also represents a first-class facility that is enticing for a lot of employees to kind of want to come to work here for. Something we feel comfortable bringing customers in and showing off, and you got to show that you're a first-class operation in order to win first-class work.
So that sure seems to me like a successful formula for both customers and for employees. And right, you got to have equal amounts of both to have it all be balanced. You clearly have a fairly young crew, right?
Yep.
Obviously experienced, but they're closer to the beginning of their careers than the end of their careers, which is awesome, because then they got lots of years to grow with you. What do you attribute being able to attract such a young, sort of vibrant crew? Is it partly just the image?
Hard to say. I mean, to pinpoint it, I know from the beginning, and probably with me kind of running the shop, some of the guys that were more experienced and a little bit more set in their ways didn't really like some of the newer ways or different ways that I kind of wanted to do things, or I did things. So that kind of attracted maybe some of the younger guys that are closer to our age that was a little bit more like-minded. But just the newer technology, I think, is a big part of it. Some of the newer processes that we have and work holding, and like using ProShop, using our cam system with solid cam, and it's just a little bit different than a lot of the shops in the area, I think. Yeah, and obviously lots of 5-axis equipment, lots of multi-axis spindle equipment, lots of palletized machines.
a lot of automation out there, which I'm double screen monitors at almost every computer or, almost every workstation. Yeah, it definitely is appealing, bright, all those things.
Yeah. What I'm noticing is, it's your processes and your tech stack and everything you built is clearly what you're setting out as your differentiator. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's a fair statement. It's also an evolution.
Sure.
You can't jump into it at the level, at the scale we're at now. You got to do what's relevant for your task at hand. So, we didn't have the amount of partnerships we'd had when 5 years ago that we do now. So it just wasn't as relevant to have palletization because
Sure.
we were doing a lot lower volume work, and it was hard to go across multi shifts when you're developing a process every job that comes through the shop. So it's a long process. I think anybody in our industry would attest that this industry has arguably one of the longest sales processes of anything I've ever been exposed to.
Sure.
So it's painful sometimes, but and then I feel like when you do finally get the green light, you can't scale fast enough.
Sure.
But yeah, that we've taken the best approach for the relevant of the situation.
Right.
So now where we're at now, palletization is a good tool that we're trying to utilize and adapt to. It's still, we've had it for quite a while. I still think we're working through the bugs. You could probably touch on it a little bit more than I can.
Yeah, like I said, with the palletization, it's still relatively new to us, so kind of still we're learning the best way to utilize it, to our advantage. So yeah, obviously you want to run as much lights out as you can, but we still have a pretty high mix of parts. We're not, not necessarily the highest of volume. So I think right now we're kind of using it more for switching between jobs, or we can save that downtime in between, when we're going back and forth, or we do development work during the day, have something that's set up at night and pull those 2 pallets out at night to be able to run those. So not necessarily as much lights out, as we'd ideally have, so we're still keeping guys at machines, as if we didn't have them, but we can pull jobs that are already proven out. So that definitely keeps our spindle uptime.
Yeah. And you have a beautiful QA lab with 3 Zeiss CMMs. I know you just bought another one for the new facility. So feeding those first article parts in while you run something else that's already been proven and just keep that spindle time. And you guys run 3 shifts, right? So you're running 24/7, like 6 days a week, 5, and then like some shifts on the weekend also.
We third shift starts Sunday night at 11 o'clock, and then we're run through until Friday afternoon at 3:30 is our normal shift hours. But second shift, they'll get overtime Friday night, and then usually Saturday mornings, we run from 7 to noon or a little later sometimes. And then use Sunday as a flex to.
Right.
Which we've been doing a lot lately because we're so busy. So guys have been coming in on Sundays and getting some more overtime.
And when we were getting the tour with Chris, he was saying that largely you've been able to fill all that excess just with volunteers. That it's nice to be able to get that overtime or double time on the weekend. Just get a few hours in the morning. You still have. He said he hasn't had to voluntold people yet, just volunteers, and people are happy to take those hours. Which sounds like a really nice arrangement.
Yeah, it's luckily we've got a nice mix of different, goals from our employee standpoint, and we've had enough mix that there's the guys that like overtime or the individuals that like overtime and eat it up as much as they can, and then there's the guys like me when I was in my 20s. I wanted my 40 hours and go play. So, a mix is always good. So we try and accommodate people having a life outside of OCD.
Sure.
We still remember working for people, and we try to, be that, try to remember that as owners too. So, try to cater to, what it's like working for somebody to try to keep them happy.
Yeah. To be able to grow as much as you have and both attract and retain that many folks. And I'm sure it's competitive around here. You got to have a great environment or else you're not going to keep them. And that churn of employees would just be too difficult to scale at the rate that you've scaled.
Yeah, we really embrace it. Just trying to, the culture and you know, I don't, it's just, it's so many little things that add up to a big thing. And the facility is obviously a visual aspect of the appeal, and the climate controlled environment, non-smoking. I think Chris does a really good job of just being absolutely he leaves nothing to question on what your direction is and where you stand. And I think that he's done a really good job of creating that culture at the top of, we got to get after it. It's your time for our dollar, right? And we expect that. And so we have high expectations, and everybody kind of knows the expectation. It's clear and defined. And it kind of polices itself a lot of times, where, if you get the majority kind of moving and like, I gotta be productive and I gotta be accountable for my job and my time. It just kind of snowballs from there. So
yeah,
it was harder in the beginning when we were, much more, it wasn't as easy to recruit because we were so new and we didn't really have a reputation, that we have now, to where we get, as we're still growing that, but we were still new to where really nobody knew who we were. There was no podcast videos of us for them to reference to. Sure. And there was a few times where it was like the really probably talented guy that we were just wasn't fitting in with the culture. And, a couple of times we've had to make a move, and at the time you don't know if it's the right move, but you kind of got to follow your gut and do what's best for the company. And, just always keep in mind what is the right decision for the overall cause. And we've stuck by that pretty genuinely through our course from.
Do you guys have published core values?
Not defined as core values.
Okay.
But I think
they're coming. I think it's that we've talked about, we've seen a lot of other successful businesses and in different arenas, but we've talked about.
Well, I'm guessing
something
even
that we're going to add.
If they're not on a list, they're still very much instilled in the culture of the business.
I think you can feel that walking around.
Absolutely you can. Sure.
One of the things we really take pride in too is like make everybody working together as a team. I mean, you hear of, or we've heard of a lot of different machine shops where quality, is like adversarial to the guys in the shop, and the mill side's adversarial to the lathe side, or this or that. And we've really pushed hard to like, no, we're all on the same team. We're all pulling on the same rope, and we're moving in the same direction. If you're not, then we'll have to have a conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's a coach that I used to listen to, and he had this phrase: "Ego is not your amigo." And I try and kind of carry that along with my personal core values, as far as not getting too big of an ego. And egos are good to a certain extent because they give you drive and motivation, but they can certainly be a crutch, and it's just it's a delicate balance. So
sure.
What would you say? I mean, is there a handful of things you can really point to that have driven the culture? Like just whether they're specific or. It's probably not I think, Friday pizza parties necessarily, right?
No, I mean those things help, but I don't think it's going to overcome a bad atmosphere. Right. Or I think it's like core values that you would admire in a person. You just expand them into a business. So integrity, we do the right thing even when we're not being watched. Treating everybody fairly. It's kind of fortunate and unfortunate that like these things stand out, but they do.
You mean in the industry? Not
in the industry or in business in general,
like businesses do that.
We try and be good stewards of our company and treat people fairly and how we would want to be treated. And those are just like, I think, some simple things. Never letting anybody question where they stand. Open door policy all the time. Keep that small business feel is another one of them. And being consistent with your leadership. Not showing favoritism, and if somebody does come to you, explain it to them as clearly as you can. Sometimes it's just hard for somebody to see it from your side of the fence, from your perspective, and they decide to move on. But you do the best you can all the time, and I think it's just the simple core things that you would learn in any kindergarten, really.
Yeah, sure. The golden rule. Yeah. Hey, Metalworking Nation. I am here with Ryan Kelly with AMT, and we have an important message that we want to talk to you about. So Ryan and I were down at the Austin Regional Manufacturers Association meeting last week, and Ryan talked with Patrick Childress, who is a U.S. Trade Representative Counsel. And Ryan, tell us about your conversation. Tell us about what we learned about the state of tariffs as it relates to the machining industry right now.
Yeah. Hey, Paul. Great to be here. So I was invited to lead a fireside chat with Patrick Childress, who has worked in trade for both the Biden and Trump administrations and has now gone private and is an attorney specializing in this issue, helping manufacturers deal with tariffs. So he was a great person to talk to about this topic, especially because of his perspective working both in the Biden and Trump administrations. Mm-hmm. We talked for about an hour. We don't have that much time here, but we did think that it was important to talk about, certain things that we think manufacturers need to know about what's happening with the USMCA, which is the US-Mexico-Canada treaty that is probably going to be renegotiated at this time and the impact that's going to have on manufacturers.
Okay. And one of the things that we all have been hearing about is a new tariff on, I don't know if it's directly on CNC machines or the metal that makes up those machines, but tell us what you know about that, because apparently there's an open comment period right now, and we need to get the word out to have as many manufacturers as possible reach out and make a comment about this tariff.
Yeah, so there is an opportunity for public comment on a new announcement on the Section 232 tariffs, where they're investigating whether or not to extend these tariffs on pretty much all industrial robots and a lot more machinery that would fall in the metal equipment category. So this is in addition to the tariffs that have already been in effect that, cover steel and metals and that, have already caused some questioning and consternation among our community. But this one really points specifically at robots and industrial machinery. And there's an open comment period that I believe, what did we say? We have 11 days of this recording, so October 17th, and about hearing from the public on what the impact of these potential tariffs could be and what the policy makers need to consider when being specific about what these tariffs will and will not cover. Mm-hmm. And so we got some great information from Patrick about what these comments should include.
Okay. So, yeah, I just stepping back and conceptually understand, the administration wants to bolster American manufacturing. It would be great if we had unlimited capacity here in North America to build CNC machines, build industrial robots. But the fact remains is we don't have that yet. It will take years to build it up. We do obviously have some manufacturers here in North America, but if at the same time wanting to bolster the actual North American machining industry right now, and if any machines coming from outside the country are all of a sudden hit with, significant tariffs, that's just going to make machines more expensive. So shops are not going to be able to buy the machines they want. And so hearing about that from small to medium-sized manufacturers is pretty critical. I know we'll share a link in the episodes this comes out with and on social media, but what are we basically asking manufacturers to do?
Well, I think, one thing that Patrick Childress reminded us was that, today's policy it isn't random. Both the Trump and Biden administrations share the same strategic goals: rebuild U.S. industrial capacity, creating jobs, and reduce trade deficits. And I think, all of the listeners can really get behind this. Absolutely. But I think, what we can share in this open comment period is a little bit more of the nuance about how tariffs are going to impact this reality. And so Childress was explicit about, there's no exemptions. There's not going to be any sort of getting out of it. This is going to be the new reality. And so it's important to do a couple things with these comments. The first thing is talk about how what we're asking for here, or the comments, are in support of these goals of reindustrialization, increasing jobs, and balancing trade deficits. So let's take a machine that currently isn't used or isn't produced in the United States today. it's probably going to take some time, maybe a couple years, like include this type of thinking. It might take a couple of years before this company who I buy machines comes and makes a factory into the United States. Meanwhile, the machine that I use, maybe you're selling to the Navy or the Air Force or some other critical industry that supports other aspects of the industrial base. These are the details that need to be known. A lot of times the people reading these comments, they're not from the industry, and so they don't understand. This is your opportunity to let them know how this is going to impact you and what you need in order to help address these three goals. The other thing that he mentioned was to be unique. These comments, they might be reading hundreds or thousands of comments potentially. Add the details and the aspects about your business to be able to make it jump out on these people that are working in the Office of Trade to understand more about the impact of these policies, both positive and negative. And then there's also strength in numbers. This is an opportunity for you to lean on your friends, neighbors within the community, people that use the same type of machines as you, people that serve the same customers or industry as you. More people saying the same thing, that is going to be a lot more powerful and resonate a lot more. So if you have people that you know that are using the same type of equipment or all selling into the Department of Defense or something, this is an opportunity for you all to band together to all submit comments that use a lot of the same language and say the same thing, so that the people reviewing these comments don't think that it's just a one-off, but that this is really indicative of more of an industry norm.
Great call to action. Thank you very much, Ryan, and to AMT for helping bring this together, and of course ARMA for creating the event that we learned all this. So to the Metalworking Nation, please pay it forward. We all need to share our voices and try to get some action here that will sort of guide the nuance of how all these tariffs are played out over the next few years in a way that's manageable to reach our ultimate goals of building our industrial base back. So Ryan, thanks so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
Hey, Mike, how often does an outside service provider keep you up at night?
Yeah, every day. I mean, the team's looking for updates on that. Every day we have a job that we need to know on.
How often is it heat treating?
I mean, large majority.
Imagine if you could go log into your supplier's website, visit a client portal, and see exactly the status of your job.
Well, that would be very helpful because, typically when we're looking, it's because our customer's looking. And I don't like having to say, we'll call you back. I like to be able to just look and tell them. And when it's not in my shop, I can't do that right now.
I think honesty and transparency is something that most manufacturing leaders want to deliver to their customers. But what I love about Phoenix Heat Treat is they literally created this client portal. It's the most transparent, the most honest you can be. It says exactly where the job is, and it makes it super easy for guys like you to tell their customers what to expect.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I wish all of our outside processors had that. Nick, how do we get a hold of them?
So you go to phoenix-heat-treating.com. That's phoenix-heat-treating.com. They're serving customers all over the country.
So I'd love to pivot and just talk a little bit about the systems you've used to scale, right, from 5 to 85. And you kind of alluded to it. You guys serve medical and defense and some aerospace, and so you're fairly well diversified in industries that are pretty top notch and really care a lot about that quality. And I've seen on your LinkedIn and some of your marketing, we'll grow with you. I love that message, that because you're right, a lot of times an end customer will start working with a shop and then they'll overload them, and then they start dropping quality or delivery or whatever, and then they have to abandon them and go find a different shop, which a customer doesn't want to do if that shop was able to grow with them. Mm-hmm. So that message that you're open to doing that, and clearly it's that, and the combination of everything else you're doing has worked, because I don't know that many 85-person shops. And again, you guys are just getting started. And thank you so much. You adopted ProShop in 2018 when you were, just a handful of folks. And a lot of folks do talk about it as sort of the backbone of their business. And it seems that you guys are using if we have a feature, you guys are probably using it. Like you really have invested in almost every corner of what we have, from tooling and fixturing and work instructions and quality inspection, and obviously the QMS side as well. How has that contributed to, being, because one of the things that we certainly at my shop had challenges with at times with, and I know I hear it in other shops all the time, if you grow too fast, the wheels start falling off, like things get chaotic, and then you drop the ball and customers are unhappy, and it's this negative cycle. So if you can maintain that, high growth while maintaining excellence, that's the formula for having long-term success and continue to grow and not have to, go through cycles as much. Can you just speak to, and I know before we hit record, you're like, I'm not sure if we're the best guys to talk about it. So we actually use ProShop very little. I'm like, that's actually awesome that you don't, because you're out buying buildings and visiting customers and hiring, so what is can you just speak to how it's been as a backbone to help kind of keep the systems aligned and make sure things are moving smoothly? And is that best for you, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you described all the different features that we're using, and I think almost every week or month, it's like, how can we use it more to our advantage? Like I say, even just set up notes. It's, it's, as we've grown now, we're getting more and more repeat jobs. So it becomes even more important to take good notes to, so we're not having to relearn it every time that we run another job.
I think I even saw a link to a video or something on one of your work orders, like video instructions, right? That's pretty awesome.
I've seen some different examples online where they would do a training video and put a QR code on, whatever piece of equipment you're using, and you guys can scan it. And then, so we started like our own internal YouTube channel to try to do some training. And I think we've linked it now
cool.
inside of ProShop also to do that. But every Friday we do continuous improvement meetings to try to, what can we do better in the shop, whether it's a certain process on a production part we're running, or it's a process inside of ProShop, so that's just, another thing that we try to embed in the culture is this continuous improvement. Like, how do we do better every day? Learn from our mistakes, make a change to do it better, and hopefully not repeat the same mistake. But one of the things I think early on with ProShop that I think gave us a big advantage is when we bring in customers in and showing them how integrated it is and how to follow the process through the shop and how it keeps everything on track, whether it's material certifications and in-process inspections. I think it really helps sell, what we do and how we do it.
Yeah. So I bought my first shop in 2018. So about the time you get in, and went straight on to ProShop. So we've been using the same amount of time. Also, not coming from a manufacturing background, it was kind of my entire education on how to run, the best practices. I knew if I adopted the best practices that were built into ProShop, I would be running a good shop. And it sounds like maybe some of that has worked for you as well, just understanding the whole process flow and that value chain it brings.
And, when we started, we probably used very little of what it can do. And I still think there's a lot of room to grow to, where we could utilize more of, the features and use it more to our advantage. But, there's a group, between Chris and some of the other project managers and our purchasing manager. I think every Wednesday afternoon they sit down and do an hour meeting with another individual out of Chicago with just more training in ProShop. So like every week it's more, just trying to dive deeper into how much more we can utilize it to our advantage, or where we come up with different situations on purchase orders, the way that we're trying to enter it in the system, and it's just a million scenarios, so we're just always trying to learn how to use it better.
So one of the themes I'm hearing both in the continuous improvement side in the shop and in the office is you're taking out specifically scheduled time to just work on your business. Like, let's work on the systems, let's make it better. And that's a conscious choice you're scheduling in, even though you're growing 40% and you're super busy, and you're still being very intentional about that, which I think a lot of shops aren't as intentional. And that continuous improvement mindset throughout the probably cultural is that 1% every day kind of mindset is just, it's so powerful.
And I think that's a lot of it's kind of back to our racing days, to where just never being satisfied where you are. And even when you win a race, it's, man, I could have gotten a little bit better, so you're always trying to improve. And then knowing that, after you did win, you're only as good as your last win. So you show up the next week and you're reset back to zero and you're even, and, you got to go prove yourself again. So I think that mindset's probably definitely helped us, throughout this, what we've been doing here.
Yeah. We're for the continuous improvement meetings, whether it's lean, and it's clear when we see it, you're putting in a lot of traditional kind of lean best practices, visual and 5S and Kaizen and all that. Where are those ideas coming from? Are they coming from the team? Do they have a system for documenting their ideas?
Yeah, we use a Microsoft product that everybody has access to, and so they can enter in whatever subject they want to, and then they'll talk about it during the meeting. But yeah, anybody from the guys on the floor to upper management. So yeah, everybody gets their input. Yeah.
Back in our shop, we had physical, what we called Kaizen newspapers. They were just a big 3M board, paper, and people would just write down a waste they were experiencing and maybe a solution if they had one, or not even. And then, weekly, everyone would get together and talk about it and prioritize. All right, this is a great idea. Let's tackle that one. And little teams would, put a couple hours per week of time into making sure they're checking off those items. And over the years, we did thousands of what we call little Kaizen tickets, and it just made such a difference.
Yeah, I mean, touch on the ProShop from my standpoint, I don't use it. Of all the owners, I probably use it the least throughout the years. But it's what you put into it, it's what you're going to get out of it. And it's not just from like a data standpoint, like that's obvious for any ERP system, but I think it's just from what you put into it, from what you to learn about it, they really dive into the learning why it does what it does. That way they can figure out the how and all the other problems that, there's always a new problem that nobody's ever going to think of that we have to kind of work through. And I think that's the purpose of the weekly meeting, is because continually there's always going to be some new obstacle or something that we didn't think of.
New customer requirement.
There was one today that we're getting credited for material and how the customer wants it invoiced, and how do you work through that in ProShop as far as itemizing it out and getting it to the QuickBooks. So it's just, well, that's a new one. I haven't seen that before. So we'll work through it and figure it out, and then we'll know for next time.
Yeah. Well, you decided to start one of the hardest businesses in the world, as I always say, without ever having done it before, which is actually funny because I was just trying to count. I think we have 4 customers that I know of, maybe more, that were started by brothers that had never been in machining before they started a business, before they started
We just talked about that a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah. Servin Brothers up in, I think, New York, the Priest Brothers in Colorado. There's another pair of brothers also in Southern Colorado. And you guys, never even turned on or even in the presence of a CNC machine in some cases. Yeah. And I love it. We need more of that.
We probably got to thank our mom for that, because she made us be teammates pretty quick in life.
Nice.
We weren't allowed to fight like other brothers were.
That's good.
We were. It can be a brutal world. So if you fight amongst each other, you might be doomed from the beginning. So that's kind of the aspect she took. So we were pretty good buddies growing up, and did our different things in our 20s, but still had the common bond of racing, and very competitive, with each other's careers. But came back together on this, and it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, doing it together has definitely been one of the best parts. But I don't know how thinking, I don't know, I couldn't have done it by myself. So having a partnership there is a huge advantage. I think just being able to come in each day and have somebody to bounce different ideas off of and make decisions.
Yeah, I had partners in my shop, and I couldn't have imagined doing it by myself.
Yeah.
Partners are, I mean,
the right ones.
Yeah, the right
Yeah.
partners are always good. I years ago there was always if you don't need a partner, don't take them, because equity is the most expensive money you can get. And, I think it was actually COVID for me that even just changed my mind on that, because having partners through that downturn that I could talk to and be scared with and everything else was incredibly helpful.
Sure.
And luckily, I think, where you got, different skill sets, for sure. I'm a lot more technical on the side of things, and, kind of learn the nuts and bolts of running the machines. And then, where he's definitely a lot more business minded, than I am, as far as the vision going forward, and the hiring process and dealing with some of the employees and things like that. He's kind of, the muscle type of side of the business, and but I think it complements. We complement each other on that aspect, and and when Chris came on board, he's definitely probably a mix between both of us. So you're never really stepping on each other's toes. Trying to do the same thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, always been a lot of respect from all the owners. I mean, Chris has really, injected a bunch of enthusiasm and knowledge that we didn't have from the industry. And, if you look at our timeline, clearly the differentiator between us kind of floating on at a linear graph, and then it really excelled after that. So yeah, couldn't have done it without him. And the, like you said, the partnerships and the hires, it's like the biggest decisions you're going to make in your business career. And
Sure.
It's a marriage, because
Well,
if you make the wrong ones, it can be detrimental.
But making the right ones goes back to what you guys said before we recorded, where you're not using ProShop all day, every day yourself.
Yeah.
I've been able to get into that spot where I'm able to go out and spend my time on the business, not in it. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things we always talk about building a valuable business, is decoupling yourself from the nuts and bolts of it and being able to work on it more often, and having a good team with good systems and processes that are executing to,
Yeah, absolutely.
execute the vision that you're setting out, and providing the resources to do that. I'd love to dwell just a minute longer on, you guys have always been a very sort of sales and marketing driven organization. And that's one of the key differentiators I see in shops that grow and shops that don't. Because obviously you're working in, pretty high-end clients, high-end industries. Sometimes it's real hard to get a foot in that door. Like you said, it's one of the longest sales cycles ever. What are some of the key things that you've done to allow you to get that foot in the door with those big, valuable customers, and be able to then grow those relationships?
Man, it's probably, what's worked with one key client, it's been a totally different story on another one. I think the one thing I can say is change is the only constant. Because
we've got, it's been a lot of different ways of getting in with some of our bigger customers. So it might be some sort of marketing, email campaign for one, or, a relationship with another, or
a referral
from another. Yeah. So it's just been a lot of different ways, but one constant is just to never take your foot off the gas, no matter how comfortable you get. And that's, I think, one of the things our dad's always pushed, because, we both talk to him,
he's been our mentor,
a couple times a week at least, and
Nice.
It's just always like, okay, you got to keep going. Like every time we feel like we get comfortable, we got this big contract. He's like, okay, what's next? You got to keep going.
No cruise control.
That's awesome. He must be immensely proud of you guys.
He definitely holds us accountable. So
Good.
It's good motivation and good guidance. But big shoes to fill, because they've been very successful, him and his brother, for in a lot of their own right. And they definitely gave us a playbook on how to do business with your brother. That's awesome.
That's cool.
I never saw him get into an argument in the 15 or so years I worked with him. So that was cool to see. Didn't really realize what an education I was getting at the time, but carried over a lot of their practices into this. And then when they started their subsidiary business of in the inductor truck industry, they do hydro excavation for like telephone poles or jet sewer lines, and it was really kind of new technology for our area, and they scaled it well beyond anybody else, and as far as their competitors go, and really got a niche in the Pacific Northwest with that business. And they were very sales and marketing heavy, and that's what they that's what they lean on. It's kind of funny. As we're having this conversation, I'm remembering back to when Chris and I signed our employee contract or whatever it was. It seems so insignificant now because we made it. But we were sitting at Jimmy John's about a mile away from here, and it was Warren Buffett's 10 rules of business or 12 rules of business. I can't remember. And the only two I can remember was don't suck your thumb and profitable sales make up for many errors in business. And we didn't suck our thumb, and we still don't. I mean, don't take your time making a decision, make one and move on.
Yep.
And we definitely value our sales team and marketing, and we've changed a lot, and we've spent a lot of bad choices too. So
sure. Yeah, no, those are, I think, just fantastic entrepreneurial words to live by, right? Move quickly, make decisions, invest in sales and marketing, because you're right, it does make up for mistakes, but you're going to make them along the way, but learn from them and pivot.
Yeah. Just kind of like races, we lost a lot more than we won, and people only remember your good stuff. So luckily they forget about your wrecks and stuff like that. So in racing terms, we've wrecked a lot in business.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think that's important to acknowledge, because people from the outside might look in and be like, oh, they got everything figured out all the time. They're making all the right moves. And no, like, I made plenty of mistakes, and you're saying the same, and I'm sure the same as your shop. But yeah, that drive to just learn from it, improve, get better, keep going, pedal the metal.
Yeah, I mean, you try and put yourself in a position where you can create an atmosphere or a security blanket where if you make a few mistakes, it's not detrimental to the future of your company. And when you're first getting going, it is. I think it is for anybody. It was for us. So there was plenty of times where we're coming in here going like, I don't know how we're going to make it.
Right.
And you just keep going and figure it out. And that's what great partners are for. They help you out through them tough times when you're mentally challenged. I think we all hit them days sometimes, but just keep going.
Mm-hmm. So I know you got to get going shortly here. Got a new house here. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
New house, new building, lots of things going in the works. What maybe just some takeaways for what you would share with someone that's newer in their journey, or really sort of looking to you guys as like an aspirational place that they want to grow a business? Yeah, what would be some of the maybe things that we've already talked about, you just want to summarize, or something new we haven't touched on yet?
I just think the never giving up is one of the things, but don't be afraid to ask for help. I think in my whole life, I've been kind of pretty stubborn of like, I'm just going to figure it out. And that's one of the things, Mitch pushed me at the beginning. Like when I remember one project I was really struggling on making a part on the lathe, and it's like, why are you beating your head against the wall? There's resources out there to use, so, I mean, made a couple phone calls, and it's like, oh, well, that made a big difference, so, just don't be afraid to ask for help.
That's a really big one.
Yeah. Hire people smarter than you and delegate.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because you're always going to be pulled in another direction. And if you get caught up in a daily task, you're not able to look at something else you should be looking at. And I think that's been a real key to our success, is being able to, okay, I got this figured out, I need to delegate it to somebody else, and kind of keep that 40,000 foot view of the business, because when you're down on ground floor, you can get caught up in the day-to-day stuff real quick. And yeah, if we we couldn't have scaled like we have if we had an ego that you want to hold on to something, and you might be the best at it or think you are.
Sure.
Right.
But you can teach anybody to do something after a while.
Yeah.
Hey, Metalworking Nation, Paul here. The countdown is on for Top Shops 2025, and I want you to be there. It's happening on November 11th and 12th in Charlotte, North Carolina at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. The best of the best in the machining industry will be all in one place, sharing strategies, best practices, and leveling up together. And optionally, come in the afternoon of the 10th to visit Roush Yates Manufacturing Solutions and see one of the most incredible machine shops in the world. If you've seen my videos of their shop, you know how amazing it is. That tour alone is worth the price of admission. Nick, Mike, and I will all be there, and we want you in the room with us. Registration is officially open, and the team at Top Shops has graciously offered listeners of Making Chips 20% off the registration price. That's $200 or more off with code MAK20. So go to topshopsevent.com, grab your spot now, and I hope to see you there.
Well, guys, thank you so much for letting us come in and pick your brains and share your story. It's a very cool story. I think your takeaways of hiring smart people, not delegating, asking for help. I know that's a big one in our industry. You got a lot of guys that think they have to know it all. I know, in my business, if we hadn't asked for help, we wouldn't have made it through, right? And so they're great lessons to take away. And Mike, I'm just thinking about how to wrap this one up with our traditional method. Right? I think it's going to be
terrible at it. So I don't know why you're looking at me.
Be something like, if you don't build the systems and the teams to delegate and ask for help and inspire people with a big vision, then you're not going to be making chips. And if
you're not making chips,
you're not making money.
Bam.
Bam.